most 99.9% of the people that are working on themselves, they don't know how to properly work on themselves. And if working on yourself doesn't involve healing subconsciously, then you're not going to heal, period. The stuff is going to keep coming back up. I've had clients diagnosed with bipolar. I've had clients diagnosed with manic depressive, depression, anxiety, people who have lost their kids, have lost loved ones, have been, ready to leave the planet, unalive themselves. I've had clients that were pretty rough. They're pretty rough. And then once they go through the process that we put them through, and it's a process that we perfected it, then they come out a brand new person. And the healing is permanent. It's not, I'm going to heal and then I'm going to go back to having the drama. No. Once they heal their love block, then it's healed. Once they heal that trauma, then that trauma is healed. There's no going back and forth. And that's because we're constantly working on the subconscious mind. We have multiple tools and resources that help them to heal their subconscious mind. Because if you don't heal the subconscious mind, you're going to keep going back in the mud. You're going to find yourself getting away from the ex who is a narcissist, who is abusive, only to get back with that same ex, but he has a different face this time. Same thing, over and over and over again. Here's the thing when it comes to abused women. Now, here's the thing, ladies. Every single one of the ladies that I'm mentioning, like the empaths, the type A personalities, and now I'm talking to the women who have been abused. Where are you at? Go ahead and put a finger up if you have ever been in an abusive relationship or are currently in an abusive relationship. Now, whenever somebody comes to us for us to help them to be able to heal their love blocks and transform into the best version of themselves and attract true love, we always have them take an archetype quiz. And in the archetype quiz, it separates them to identify what is their unique personality so that we know exactly the plan to give them for their healing. So the type A's we call a ruby. For the women who are empathic, we call those women an onyx. For the women who are constantly being in abusive relationships, who have been in abusive relationships, we call them citrines. Those are citrines. Because there's certain things that you have to do. And abuse isn't just physical abuse. Raise your hand up if you've been abused mentally and emotionally. There's even financial abuse. There's mental abuse. It's all bad. It's all just as bad, y'all. It's not, because a lot of women minimize it when it's not physical. They're like, yeah, well, it can't be that bad. I mean, he didn't really hit me. You have bruises. The bruises are just on the inside. It's the same thing. You're still abused. Mental, physical, psychological, emotional, financial, sexual abuse is abuse. It's abuse. And all of it is trauma. And the trauma has a side effect. And if you've been through that, then that requires healing. Because listen, women who attract abusive men because they have no boundaries. And the reason why they have no boundaries is because something happened in childhood, oftentimes, where they were told or made to feel like they weren't enough. They weren't good enough. They weren't worthy enough. There was a parent or a loved one who would withhold love, and they would try to do everything they could in order to get that love. But that parent, that loved one, would speak to them in an abusive way, a demeaning way. The parent or loved one had some type of substance abuse or addiction, and because of that, they were unable to love you in the way you needed to be loved. And so because you grew up with that abuse, witnessing it, either your mother being abused or your father, and or you being abused, it became normalized. So then now you tend to not only attract men who are going to abuse you mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, but you also tend to attract abusive jobs. You tend to attract abusive friendships. You tend to attract abusive situations. Hell, you know what I found? Women who are citrines, they even abuse themselves. Oftentimes, the citrines, you will hear them verbally assault themselves because they're so used to it. Oh, I was such an idiot. You know, me being my dumb, they'll say the most demeaning things about themselves. Like it's nothing. So when a man calls them a B or calls them out their name, then it's not abnormal to them. They can accept the apology. They can tolerate it because it's been normalized, even if it causes pain.